Okay, in this lesson we're going to discuss how we would use the trig ratios to find angle measures. We already used it to find side lengths, now we're going to find angle measures. So let's take a look at this example problem. It says find the angle a handicapped access ramp to Mary's front porch makes with the flat ground under it if her porch is 4 feet high and the ramp is 18 feet long. So I'm just going to take my diagram here, which is really just a right triangle is the important part. And I'm going to label the height of the porch. So it says 4 feet, so I'm going to label that. And the ramp, it says, is 18 feet long. I'm going to label that. And we're supposed to find this angle here, which, by the way, we'll learn about a little bit later in this unit, is called the angle of elevation. So I need to find that angle measure. So when I'm looking at that angle as my reference angle and comparing the 4 and the 18 to it, I can see that 18 is the hypotenuse and 4 is the side opposite of that reference angle. So I know the ratio I'm going to use is sine because that's opposite divided by hypotenuse. And I'm saying the sine of A is equal to, so opposite is 4 divided by hypotenuse, which is 18. So if I try to solve this using the technique we did before with putting that over 1 and cross multiplying, well, I'm going to get 18 times the sine of A is equal to 4. Well, if I'm trying to solve that for A, I might say, well, I could divide both sides by 18, but if I do that, then I'm just back to where I started. So I'm kind of stuck here. So this approach, it actually isn't going to work. Making a proportion and cross multiplying isn't going to work when what we're solving for is the angle measure, okay, which is what we're doing here. So I'm not going to use that approach. Instead, what I have to do is I need my calculator to help me. So in order for me to solve for the angle measure, what I will use is the inverse key. So there are 3 different keys here on the calculator that involve inverse. So we have the inverse sine, the inverse cosine, and the inverse tangent. Inverse is just indicated with that -1 as the exponent. So I would read this as sine, the inverse sine, the inverse cosine, the inverse tangent. So I was trying to solve my equation. Sine of A is 4/18, and I was trying to solve that for A. So what I need to do actually is use the inverse sine, which will undo really what's happening right now. So I'm going to take the inverse sine of what the angle was equal to, or what the sine of the angle was equal to. So inverse sine of 4/18 will give me A. So that's how I'm going to find A. So what you're looking for is an angle measure, you want to use the inverse sine in this case. So that's how I will find the length, find the angle of the ramp. So I'm going to type in my calculator the inverse sine, and when you're doing that, just you're using usually it's second and then that button for most calculators. So I'm going to do the inverse sine of, and then I just type 4/18, 4 divided by 18. And when I do that, it's giving me that A, angle A, the measure of angle A is approximately 12.84. That's 12. And these are degrees. Okay, so that's how we use inverse, in this case sine, but it could be cosine or tangent, to find the missing angle measure. So the angle measurement of the ramp is approximately 12.84 degrees. So let's take a look at another problem. So I'm looking for this angle, and I know I don't know the opposite side. I do know the hypotenuse, and I do know the adjacent. So I know the ratio that involves adjacent and hypotenuse is cosine. So I'm going to say the cosine of question mark is equal to adjacent, which is 32, divided by hypotenuse, which is 35. So I need to solve for question mark. So in order to do that, I'm going to take the inverse cosine of 32/35, and that will give me the measure of question mark. So the measure of angle question mark is approximately equal to, and I'm just going to type that in the calculator. So I'm doing inverse cosine of 32/35. And when I do that, I'm getting approximately 23.90. And these are degrees. So that's how we use, in this case, inverse cosine to find missing angle measures.